All right, I'll call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order on this day, October 8th at 6:33 p.m. First order of business is Secretary's report from September 24th and special meeting for 9/27. So can we approve minutes from September 24th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 24th and hold off on the special meeting minutes.
Okay.
I'll second the motion, but I'd like to suggest a few changes, minor changes to the minutes from September 24th. The first one, item 7, on the town vehicles, my note said the goal was to have them done by October 1.
That was for police.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, that's not my note.
Okay.
Let me read my note and get these glasses on. Okay, you're correct on that. Item 7, I thought we were going to begin enforcement on October 1.
Oh,
Did I have that wrong for the transfer station?
No, that's correct, but the transfer
Okay.
station wasn't open on the 1st.
Oh, so okay.
It started on the 2nd, but you're correct. I can change that back to the 1st.
Thanks. And then just a minor one in item 11 to flesh out a bit. The issue on affordable housing was that I asked for an update from P&Z on progress to date.
Yeah, I didn't want to go into too much on that since it wasn't on the agenda, so I just glossed over it a little bit, but...
I understand. I'm fine with that if that's your intent.
Okay.
Thank you. So with that, I second approval.
So Joy's take a minute so I don't have to. I'm like writing like I'm so used to. Okay, great. Well, thank you. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we're tabling the approval of the special meeting. Okay, audience of citizens. The public is reminded to state your name for the record, and it's not really intended as a special question and answer period, but we'd love to hear what you have to say. Anyone would like to address the board at this time? Well, thank you for coming. Got a good group tonight. Thank you. Big size. All right, so next on the agenda, town meeting. That was just a reminder. We have a meeting tomorrow evening at 6:30 here at the town hall upstairs, and it's to approve moving some money out of our kind of last year's surplus budget, or budget surplus from last year, into some line items that have been expended this year. So more of that it's on the legal notice, and it'll be stated tomorrow at the meeting, so please come. That was just sort of a reminder. So update to drainage issue on Oak Ridge Drive. I see we have the homeowner here, and I put that on here because at this point, we really feel like we've moved forward. We've got the contract signed. Contractor's prepared to be there on Monday to begin work. I spoke to the contractor today, emailed the homeowner today. So it looks like it's finally going to be moving forward. So I just wanted to put that on there. It's been on the agendas right along to give everybody an update.
Carol, has the addendum been signed?
The addendum has not been signed, but I talked to the contractor and I'm going to email it to him. He was fine with the language that we kind of talked about over the phone. So he was anticipating signing it. He seemed to be pleased with how it was presented.
Well, going forward, I'm not pointing any fingers at anyone, but I think that we have to have a better policy and procedure of bidding work in the town here. I was not happy from the beginning how this all was handled, and I'm thoroughly disgusted right now how it's been handled. If we're going to have site visits with contractors, there should be a sign-in so everyone knows what the discussions were, because it cost the taxpayers an extra $21,000 because of this. And that's exactly what I said was going to happen back in our special meeting with us 3 selectmen, the building inspector, and the DPW director. So I just want to have a better policy and procedure of any RFPs that go out for bids in this town to avoid these issues going forward. Again, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but it was not right. It wasn't right for the homeowners, and it sure as heck isn't right for the citizens of the town of Deep River to have to pay an extra $21,000. So
What I'd like to add, Dwayne, to what you're saying is what we had discussed at the most recent special meeting, when we talked about the process and procedures. One thing to add to that is to the procedures to have a consistent understanding and practice of how much insurance that we're charging and have that uniform across all levels of bid work.
But there has to be more consistency of a procedure and policy of
Absolutely.
everyone's bidding on the same apple. Everyone's bidding on the same orange. Not someone bidding on an apple and someone bidding on an orange.
We also
Because
need
it wasn't right to the homeowner, and like I said, it wasn't right to us taxpayers. And it put a lot of strain on the three of us and the different people in the town here.
I think we need to tighten up just the practice of who's on first, who's on second, who moves paper, who gets things signed, who communicates to the contractor, whether it's the head of public works, that whole thing needs to be clarified. That's a process.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The COI is a little tricky. It probably depends on the overall value of the project and that sort of thing, but
But we can set up a framework.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
it's this value, it should be that, and then everybody knows, and it's documented, it goes out with the RFP.
yeah, absolutely.
Plenty of room for improvement.
Yeah, I have noticed that. Plenty of room for improvement. Okay, so homeowner, at least I know you're here. Did you want to add anything in case you made the trip down? But-
No, I think, we're clear on what the issues still are and what my concerns are. I'm just giving my fingers crossed and praying it don't undermine your foundation.
We all want nothing but the best moving forward. He did say he might be able to get some equipment out there this weekend, so he's ready to go for Monday. So, again, thank you for your patience.
Those pipes are large.
That's what I'm saying. And that line is awful close to my house.
Okay, moving on, the Transfer Station Committee report. So, as we mentioned, the enforcement, we had a volunteer group on our Transfer Station Committee that have been putting in a lot of time up at the transfer station with the enforcement that started on the second, officially, Wednesday. And I did ask if Lenore and Tom, if they wanted to address the Board of Selectmen and the public here and tell us what you've been up to. I heard it was generally well received by the public.
I've got a report here as far as statistics.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
If you want, I could read this off for everybody. Or,
Yes, it would be great.
This is Tom Grow with the Transfer
oh,
Station
sorry,
Committee.
my name's
No,
Tom
that's okay.
Brooklyn, 46 Hemlock Drive. You want me to read it for everybody?
Sure. If you want to kind of do the presentation, that way it's on the record.
And then the maybe chairperson will talk.
Okay.
Stand over there so everyone can see.
Okay.
So we spent all 4 days up there, almost 32 hours, but we were short one person, so we had 5 hours unaccounted for. So what I did is I projected those 5 hours from the data from earlier in the week, because that was on Sunday. We had a total of 1,011 vehicles. 633 were compliant, which is 63%, and 349 were not compliant, which is 35%. Out of the non-compliant ones, we had 65 loose people that had them in their hand. That's 19% of the non-compliant. 86 in the wrong place, 25% of the non-compliance. 22 that were behind tinted windows that you couldn't see unless you got right up to the car, which is 6%. 113 we sent to the office to get a sticker. We sent 17 to the town hall to get special permits. We sent away 9 people. And there was 9 people that refused to stop or just didn't want to deal with us at all. And under other, I have 28% because there were some that got biased because there's not always 2 of us there and it got busy. And that's pretty much it.
Chester?
Oh, we had 90 Chester people.
And so generally, do you think people were happy to see you up there?
Well, some were. A certain percentage were thanking us. A certain percentage didn't care. A certain percentage thought it was foolish. Some of them were just downright angry. But I would say half people were probably, some really thanked us for we're not really enforcing. We're collecting data, and hopefully we'll be doing that for a month. So I hope that, so we can get more accurate information, so then we can, committee can decide where to go from there.
So the 9 that you sent away, Tom, you have 9. Why were they sent away? Were they out-of-towners?
Yes. Sent away, or they didn't have the right, most of them were out of town. But they didn't have a sticker on, they had a lot of stuff.
I'm just curious because we've been hearing time and time again that there's lots of people from out of town. And so I was just curious if those 9 were 100% from out of town.
I would say they weren't necessarily. They didn't have the right documentation.
Yes.
If they didn't have a sticker, we asked them for a driver's license and vehicle registration that had to be registered in Deep River. And if they didn't have that,
Okay.
then it was pretty clear. Understand, a lot of people gave excuses because, they were making things
We
up.
could go on for hours about the excuses.
Yeah. So I can speak for myself. I was there for 1 hour this whole week. But I had people I had to turn away because, well, I have my brother's uncle's son's car. My car with a permit is,
Yeah, there's every excuse in the world.
yeah.
And my next question is, because I witnessed it yesterday, there was none of you people there yesterday when I went, but there was an individual that came in with there's a local landscaper
On Monday or Sunday?
yesterday. Sunday. I'm screwed up. A Sunday I was there. I was there probably around 1:30. Mr. Jenkins saw me. And this gentleman came in with a roll-off truck loaded with brush. He came in and gave the young fellow there a check. How do we know where that's coming from?
Exactly, that happened.
And so that's hold on, we're concerned about the stickers,
Yeah.
people having a sticker, but there's a roll-off coming in loaded with brush from a local contractor, but I don't know where that came from. It could have come from Haddam, could have came from Old Saybrook.
We're gonna be addressing that in the future.
So these are questions that I have as a select person.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all is important, but again, we're worrying about a sticker, but here's a contractor that we have no idea where he's come from. And I know this has happened 4 or 5 years ago when our previous, when Angus was here, and another local contractor was bringing in some stuff from Old Saybrook. So that's my question.
I can address that. Everybody has to have a permit. Everybody has to have a permit. The permits that Bob is handing out are kind of the regular people. If you live here and you're bringing your local trash, you've got a car registration that's registered in the town, that's required by the state law, and you have a driver's license that proves that you live here. If you fall into any of the other areas, and there is a large handful that we've been in conversation with Amy will give these people if they qualify, we'll give them a temporary pass.
I think you're missing what I'm trying to say, Lenore. This gentleman has a business in town. It's a local landscaper that
Yes.
has, so his vehicles are registered in town.
Okay?
But where is that job coming from? Is it coming from a Deep River residence? Or is it coming from Old Saybrook?
In a
Is it-
nutshell, we don't know.
And that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah,
Again, we're worrying about someone having the sticker not stuck on their window, but we're letting a roll-off
Yeah.
of brush come in here. We have no idea where it came from. That's my concern. I don't care about the sticker. Yes, we're trying to enforce it, but, a guy has a sticker. I got my sticker on my window, but my windows are tinted. I'm not worried about that, but I'm worried about this roll-off, and we're charging $50, $20. I don't know what they charge a roll-off, but these are concerns that I have. Because grinding up that mulch pile is just as expensive, if not more, than hauling the garbage away.
no.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think your concerns are valid, and we can bring that even to a bigger reference. If I drive up with bunches of garbage bags, It's from my house.
Really, yeah, to know where it's generated from. that is
So
the concern.
those are huge concerns but I'll address that.
No, I'm just, these are, you know,
We dug ourselves a hole a long time ago, when we didn't, a long time ago, like all the other area towns except for East Haddam, pay per throw. Clinton, you get a card, you buy a card, and you put a card for every can you get. That's how. So we've got to get out of this hole. We got to figure out how to do that.
I will say, can I just add, sorry, Catherine, I think we're gonna go. So the stickers, you gave out a lot of stickers. The town clerk almost ran out of stickers. She only had 12 left. So I went and got some stickers from the transfer station on Saturday, brought them here. But, so that shows to me that you guys, the enforcement is really working. You're sending people to get their stickers that are supposed to have them. And a couple of the complaints that we've had, the biggest one we had today was from a Chester resident that said you are making her trip to the transfer station very uncomfortable.
She flipped out.
Well, she called here and flipped out too.
She didn't have a Chester sticker.
And that's what we said. Well, the people from Deep River seem to really enjoy that. We're enforcing it.
When I look at the numbers and I think about this, those sent away as a percentage of the total vehicles, you realize that's about 1%. That's so, I'm not sure what to think about that. That either means our problem isn't that large when you really get down to it.
Exactly.
Or there aren't that many violators.
I'll tell you, my perspective on that is that we've been announcing this for weeks and weeks, and there's been a sign at the transfer station, I want to say for maybe 2 months, and there's been a sign out here. So if you have the nerve to drive up there, I would say you probably, and you see us, you probably, those people have begun to go away because of this impending enforcement.
We had some gauntlet runners that just said,
Yeah.
hell with you, and just drove and emptied anyway.
Well, thank you for being
Yep.
there. Lenore, did you
Far
have
away
anything else to
run
add?
across the
Can I ask
field
a question, Tom?
to the,
It's not really question answer, but if you can let Lenore, you want to speak for a few?
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah. Carol asked me if there were any other things that, we wanted to say about the transfer station, and I do want to take this minute. So we've got some diversion of solid waste going on. The thin plastics is still taking off like crazy. And many thanks to Carol and Eric now is bringing the huge accumulation of thin plastics to Old Saybrook on Mondays for us. Up until recently, we've been driving it in our own pickup trucks to Old Saybrook and back. That was unsustainable. So that's a wonderful thing. We've got, and we've got benches that come out of that. We've got food scraps continuing, and that's going really well. We're hoping that more and more people will continue to divert their food scraps out of the garbage. The hopper, thanks again to Eric, we were able to close off that back entrance that has had almost no supervision and invites unregulated disposal. So now everything is being disposed of at the top where there are eyeballs on things. Our committee's still relatively new. We only started in July. We have not created a mission statement yet. That's coming. We know we're just advisory. We are volunteers. We have to kind of remind ourselves that we're volunteers. So sometimes, we don't do as much as we would like. For instance, staffing the transfer station during these couple of weeks of enforcement, there are holes, there are gaps because people aren't available to get there. We're going to be collecting the invalid excuses, probably for our own amusement. Those are always fun. We will send you folks a list of kind of constant reminders that could go out each time that will help to encourage people to do the right thing. Our goal is to save the town money and to dispose of waste in a responsible way for the earth. Would you say, Tom, that's...
And keep out the riffraff.
Well, that's saving us money, absolutely.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. You really appreciate it. Thank you
Okay,
so much for
great.
your hard work.
You're welcome, thank you.
And Mike, you had a question?
For Tom or Lenore, could a benchmark, as far as your effectiveness, I mean, I think we brought to light the possibility that we've been abused by surrounding towns for a couple of years. I think it really took light when we did the bag thing. I mean, that may have discouraged. Can you go back 3 years and see what the outgoing tonnage is? Our population hasn't changed much. So if we can use that as a redundant backup and see 3 years ago what the outgoing tipping tonnage is
That's a great
to
point.
today.
Okay, you can do that. You should be able to do that. You can keep those records for how long.
You know, again,
Some of that, Mike, would be a little bit hard because 3 years ago, we weren't separating the scraps, the food
We are
scraps.
headed.
So I understand what you're trying to
We
say,
have already
yes.
seen it, didn't we?
Yeah,
so-
not apples and
Tonnage is
apples.
coming out.
Well, then, but you could add that back in if you.
Correct.
If you
But
deduct.
Correct.
If you deduct what?
Correct, yes.
That is the hope, if we could see a deduction, because we've kept other people out or something.
It's pretty simple.
Population.
We know
People aren't eating less.
we know we send out for checks every month to
Yeah.
get rid of our trash, so it's, you know, and it's all tonnage. I'm sure Anne Marie has the receipts there.
Yeah.
I mean, just to see if we're going in the right direction or wrong direction with bringing
That is one of the
attention to
goals, to compare
It's
the
just
video.
kind of early. I think we need a little more time to get more statistics, face-to-face statistics. Just a little more time when the new stickers come out, and I hope they come out before January 1st. I think that's when we should really start to enforce. You have to come here to get a sticker starting January 1st,
And what,
or online.
and what Dwayne brought attention to was this particular dumpster, and I'm sure this happened a lot. Some of the towns, Clinton or Madison, they would scale, they don't care where you come from because they're making money when you
Exactly.
run across that
Exactly.
section.
Exactly. If
And
that's the
we're
case,
charging
let's,
$50 for a roll-up, we're losing money.
Yeah.
So,
You know that Guilford and Madison just passed pay as you throw.
No, I didn't.
It was in the
It's
news.
throw it up.
All right. So we do have Bob here from the transfer station. Bob, did you want to add anything to this weekend's, how it went with the sticker enforcement?
What was Tom and Jim's work with you?
Yeah, Jim,
Yeah. Everything went smooth. Eric was there Saturday with me. If Tom had a problem, he waved his hand or whistle, and we handled it. When Lenore come out Sunday night, or Sunday afternoon, what I didn't appreciate was when she had the people turn around, she's turning around on our lawn out there, instead of turning around on the driveway, where we originally wanted the stop sign, so we could avoid this. We cleaned up the area, it looks great, everything. I wouldn't expect me to turn my vehicle around on her lawn. I'd look for a driveway.
that's because we had to move the stop sign because we couldn't turn people around because people
But what
are from behind.
happened, what happened was, when it was, the line went right out towards the gate, everybody I had up front couldn't get out. So I
Right,
had a cluster.
so we had to move the sign away from that intersection.
But if you put the stop sign back here, they can come out that road and go out.
I mean, before the intersection.
Before that, that's where we originally had put the stop sign, and it got moved up.
It should be up by the mattresses.
All right, so that's something we can work out.
Someone
just,
around up there.
Send them
Logistics.
through, we watch it.
All right,
We watch it from there, and we get your attention because we're closer.
all right. Thank you, Bob. Tony, you had a question?
Question and a comment. So, well, actually two comments. One, I know you were mentioning that people weren't putting their stickers on their windshield. I think you need to look at that because Connecticut state law, Connecticut General Statutes 1499F says that you cannot obstruct your windshield.
That's not true.
It's not obstructed.
We have.
Yeah, no,
we
you
have
can
the
put up
state-
to a 5x5
I'm
square.
just mentioning it, please look into it, that's That's all I
Yeah,
asked.
we did.
And then
According
the other
to
thing,
the
there was-
statute, it's
you
5
said
by
there were
5
gaps.
square, you're allowed lower, yeah.
Yep, there's also, that's why we took away the registrations in the windshield. You also said there was a gap in availability. A camera would fix that pretty simply. If, like Sunday, you said there was 5 hours. An S-cam was $199 for the year. So,
Yeah.
the possibility.
We're looking at that, we don't have internet up there, so it has to be a wired, hardwired thing.
So,
Okay,
Kenny?
Oh, I wanted to say, before you were talking about commercial vehicles, roll-offs, since when do we even accept those? We never used to accept those commercial vehicles. They said it right in the,
right, if they're landscapers that are either Chester or Deep River.
commercial vehicles are not accepted. Why do we take them now?
It's in the contract that we have with
Only
Chester.
contract?
It's just for landscaping vehicles.
Okay. And the other thing is, you want tonnage from 3.5 years ago. When I worked there, it was COVID. And the only place you could go in the area was to the transfer station, so people could clean in their attics and garages and the ones. And so there's gonna be a lot more tonnage from 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Good point, good point. Well, thank you for those comments.
You're welcome.
And thank you for all the hard work, our transfer station committee. Okay, Sustainable Committee, number 7. I just wanted to say congratulations on achieving the silver certification. That committee worked very hard. Lenore is on that committee as well as Tom. Sarah Connors, our chairperson, and that's a very long process, and we got the bronze back in, 2022? So for the last 2 years, they've been working on the next level, which is silver. So congratulations. We find that out Friday late in the afternoon. And they will be presenting a plaque down at the Kate on November, I think it's the 18th or the 13th. It's a Wednesday.
It's
So,
November 13th, yeah.
so if anyone would like to go, it's usually a free event. It's from 4 to 7. And you get to see all the other towns in the state that have achieved some sort of certification and what their projects entailed. They usually highlight something from every application and point out how this particular municipality did it and versus that one or something. So it's really great, so thank you. Okay, number 8, affordable housing. So update for Deep River, our next steps from the P&Z. We have Alan and Tony are here. And we wanted to have an action tonight to form an affordable housing committee, which can play an important role in our community because it can be more community-based for Deep River. So basically our housing plan, I did print it out and I have it here. It's on the website, but if anybody would like to look at it, it was written early 2022 and adopted by the Board of Selectmen in May of 2022. So again, just if anybody wants to see a hard copy, but it is on the website. So Tony.
Okay, so I was just gonna throw out a bunch of information. Tony Bolduc, by the way, Chairman of Planning and Zoning. So, like you said, we finished our affordable housing plan in 2022. 830G is what establishes affordable housing. That's been in play for 35 years now. In that time, Deep River has never had a single 830G application. So, knock on wood. At the moment, Deep River has 212 housing units available in its footprint, I guess. And the state requires 10% of that to be set aside for affordable housing. At the moment, we have 79 units that are either deed restricted or income restricted. So if you take 79 from 212, we need 133 units just to meet the threshold for 10%. However, if you do make forward progress in a big way, if you do, I think it's 4%, you can get a 4-year moratorium. So if you don't have to strive for that 133 today, do it in 1 year. The other end of that is if you did the 133 right now, you'd also lower everybody's property value. If you built 133 low-income units, everybody's number goes down. So that's, I mean, those are the big numbers there. And I would like to point out that there is, in the back, there's an objectives. So it's on page 14 of the affordable housing plan. It's a bunch of objectives and how to go about doing some of this stuff. I do understand that you guys do want to do an affordable housing committee.
Can I, before we move past that, Tony, could I see the report from it?
Yeah.
I actually sat on this thing
I know.
with you and did some
I
of the
remember.
work. What I would like to see is feedback on all the items that were for planning and zoning to do, to have a sense of where you are. And at the same time, an assessment. The Board of Selectmen had a number that we were supposed to do. That's what I'd love to see.
Okay.
Because that's what I mean by status report on this.
Gotcha. And so, you know, so have an update from P&Z?
Maybe we could do that for the next meeting, or whenever fits best for what's coming up, but it
Well,
would
the
be...
selectmen were supposed to establish with the towns of Chester and Essex, the inter-town, that was one on our objective, which hasn't been done. So that's why I said, well, we can get our committee together, but if you want to
Start
table it
working
for
on it.
another meeting?
No, I'd
that's
love to
fine.
get the committee together. I'm just saying for another, we
just
could
to
get a
establish the
feed out
committee and then,
on where we are on that.
yeah.
I mean, and the only thing I'd like to add on this, before we move on, is I think there's been a sense, well, you know, we'll do this, and then they won't bother us for a while, just a general feeling, or we'll show a little progress, and then, I'm wondering if we could actually expand our thinking a little bit and get away from the fear of the old affordable housing, which was people that we weren't comfortable
Low income.
being here. And think about what we've got. What we really need for affordable housing is two ends of the spectrum. We've got a need on senior citizens, which is a growing segment of our Deep River population, unfortunately, as time marches on, to get out of some of their big houses. Let those be sold. They don't want to necessarily do the yard work. They want to stay here. That, and at the other end, we've got a need for the early worker / young family, someplace for young people right after trade school, high school, college to live. And maybe the committee will get into that, but rather than just trying to meet some standard from the state, which is a fearful one, that they're going to make us do something horrible, I'm wondering if we can shift our thinking to doing something that we actually need here that would benefit us, and all of us have older people or kids or somebody that are trying to get launched and can't stay here.
Well, that is, those things are pointed out in the study, as you know, then the survey in the back that, you know, for the.
But we haven't done it. We haven't
but
done
they're-
it.
But they're not state-driven in this.
Yep.
This is a Deep River document, which is nice.
So I was going to throw out two more numbers, and then, but I also wanted to say that a lot of towns also, they instead of calling it affordable housing, they call it workforce housing
Yep.
and things like that, because immediately people think low-income housing. They don't want that
They
in their
do,
neighborhood.
like a
and that's-
Section 8 versus
Right, and that's
affordable
immediately what
for-
they think. They're like, oh, not
For who's
that.
working in your town.
Right.
That's what we want to be able to house.
But so a single person in Deep River who makes $59,950 or less would qualify for low-income housing. And a family of four making $70,000 or less a year, $7,900 or less would qualify as low income. So I mean, these are decent numbers. You know, if you're starting out in life and you're making less than 60 grand, you're low income. You know, and if you're a family and you're making less than, let's call it 80,
Can't survive.
yeah.
So I mentioned at the last Board of Selectmen meeting that the RiverCog has a regional housing, and I see Daniel Smith as our Deep River representative. Daniel, would you like to address the board and add anything to?
Yes, I certainly would. So if they're looking at setting up an affordable housing committee, they have resources for us because other towns or neighbors have started these as well. Ben Joy with Connecticut Housing. His job would be to come out here and tell us everything we need to do with that. What RiverCog is doing is a regional, based exactly what Tony was talking about in our plan, as far as trying to size what the need is. They spent a while looking at formulas how to establish that need, and now they're at the point of looking at the actual population need, and even with us, they predict, even with our inverted pyramids of growth across the region, they still believe that we're able to come up 2.5%, which would be awesome if we did. The issue with that is those numbers are just straight numbers from 2020. They aren't super applicable already 4 years in, but there is a resource that has worked with some of the towns that they're going to bring in for regional to, he's an economist, really smart fellow, and so ideally he'll be able to spin that need into a real picture, other than just saying we have to have X number of units or X number of this. Because, as was pointed out, the real needs are with the demographics of the aging population, to have some form of rent control in an affordable housing unit. And also, when our kids come back from college, have a place to come back to and get a job, start to work. And that isn't reflected in what they're looking at right now. Fortunately, just because they're working with the whole region, this isn't moving really fast. So I mean, we need to be aware of that. So maybe in our best interest, reach out to Ben Joy, who already gave a heads up, to see how he can help us to see what we can do with Deep River. The important thing for us to remember is, even though we do have a need to have a population, we really aren't that idyllic to the developers, because what makes it affordable for them is to have the sewer system. And we only have a couple properties that could be available on the sewer. When we look at the heat maps showing where the great properties are that they want to be able to cook for the region, they aren't in Deep River. There's some in Essex, ironically off of our sewer system. And in Chester, again, ironically off of our sewer system, so that could be beneficial to us in our planning. But there really aren't a lot of spots that they're identifying, whether it's privately owned now or not, that are good in Deep River to fit all the check boxes. So do that with what you will. I think the best way to lean into it with Ben is to look at what result we want to get and then aim towards that result. And we've been doing that work with the new POCD to update the 2022 plan.
Yes.
The other thing they've been working on is looking at what other types of units that we already have that could be brought to help us level up. ADUs is one that we mentioned in the planning and zoning meeting when that was asked, because some people actually have units within their homes now for in-laws or children that they just aren't documented as deed restricted or as affordable. And that's going to be a big part of our plan, is seeing how to leverage what we have and giving people the opportunity to enhance their home for an in-law. And maybe the town can do something with them on that. That'll help us meet our goal, and work our way around.
I know the regional, through the RiverCog, the last meeting I went to, there was something, they were going to do the survey and have the results out like the end of October or November.
Yes, I mean, and I will be bringing them to the P&Z as soon as we have them, but it's going a bit slow. Right now in the preliminaries, they're saying for the whole region, they expect to grow from 82,000 to 87,000. But somehow that, puts a number around us that they think that we're going to grow by a couple hundred. I really want to see them work with those numbers, because I don't think that data is pure right now.
Would you like a motion?
Well,
Can we talk about the committee for a second, though? I understand the need for a committee, but I feel like, planning and zoning has actually talked about this at length. We've asked for ARPA money to get a professional to look into this, because, you are going to get people in town who are going to get on these committees and be like, all right, well, this is a decent property, but it's too close to my house, so we'll look at this one over here. I think you need an outside opinion on this, and I think you need to spend the money on it. And you're also at risk of burning out the people who are volunteering for these.
What sort of money are you suggesting to do a study like this?
I'd have to go back. You know what? I bet you Alan knows the number off the top of his head. If he doesn't, we'll have to go back and look.
As a portion of the original ask, I think that the housing study was in a range of a $40,000 study, but included some incentives. So it wasn't just the study, it was, it started in the implementation. In regard to the implementation, we already have the accessory dwelling units. Yes, for an update. Now, I think that was a significant change to the zoning regulations that enabled that to happen. But to realize that there's going to be more publicity and potentially some incentive to have people, deed restrict these properties, or even know what they have in regard to these in-law apartments, or even forward income accessory dwelling units. So I think that was the biggest headway we've made in terms of creating the opportunity for a desirable addition to our housing mix. So, might kick that back to you to see, how do we incentivize that with some sort of a tax abatement for that type of unit or something along those lines. But as Tony said, the housing study might identify the strategies to provide the incentive, and the ARPA money could have been used to, provide that incentive.
Well, that's behind us.
Yeah.
I mean, make sure I understand what you're suggesting, or maybe suggesting.
Yep.
Do you think paid professional is better than a volunteer committee to get this job done?
Absolutely, because at the moment, you have, a lot of people are just volunteering, and, I mean, from a planning and zoning standpoint, and we're on 4 different committees at the moment, and, we're asking for more. And a lot of us have 1 full-time job, or some of us have 1.5 full-time jobs, plus volunteering, and multiple committees. You're just not gonna get the effort and the expertise that you would if you put the money into doing this. Again, I know people love this town and they love to do that, but my opinion is that you need a professional to do this.
I echo what you're saying, Tony. I would rather, again, no disrespect to you gentlemen, that you guys do a wonderful job. You're very educated and you're very passionate for what you do, but I would like to see somehow get the money to hire an outside. I mean, we spent the money to hire an outside to do the study for the fire department, so I think we should do the same thing for these guys, because the last thing we want to do is see any of you guys get burned out, and then we have we have voids there. So, however we can try to
The name
find.
I mentioned, Ben Joy, that service is provided by the state. That's exactly what they're doing. That wouldn't cost us money initially. They can come in and speak to this group or any group we want to set up. If we want to set up a special community education, they just did one for Chester, so they're kind of aware of what our needs would be in this, this portion of the state. And as I mentioned, I already put a heads up to them.
This is Ben Joy at the
Ben
state.
Joy, yeah.
And you can share his contact information.
Sure, he attends all the housing meetings,
But would it be the sort of thing, he could do a plan for free, or he would just tell us?
It's a beautiful thing. They just created his new little department. So they have money and they have an incentive to spend it. They're showing up at every meeting saying, town, so you have us come and talk to
It's
you.
music to my ears.
Well, so can we,
I don't want that to slide past, because this, maybe, he could probably fill in very quickly a lot of the gaps for what our next steps should be. And I really think it's ill-advised for us, from meeting with towns, for us to take any steps forward on our own without accessing this resource. This is just what's going on in Hartford, without even just knowing what's happening there. It's really into the weeds, and he has all this information.
well, so how about if we form our local committee? We don't have to define it necessarily tonight. I was talking to the town clerk about this. But then if there could be a couple of the point people, and I know you don't want to take on maybe another big thing, but could you then take on reaching out to this Ben Joy, so it's a little more focused instead of one of us reaching out and we're not sure of like what exactly we're going to ask for, this sort of thing.
I'm
So
happy to
then-
do that in my current role. I think that's totally within my current role, to reach out to Ben and set up a
Awesome.
time.
Okay.
And the question is, do you really want to, as Tony mentioned, do you want to say, hey, people show up, want to be in this committee, and then have them come speak to
No,
that?
no, it wouldn't
Or
be
I think you should have them come speak to you. And to-
It wasn't going to be like an open committee, it would be
Yeah.
something the Board of Selectmen working with people that know, we would appoint people based on expertise and recommendations. So it was going to be that type of committee, but if you're willing to take that on as the point person to get the next step going, that
To
would be
contact
wonderful.
Ben.
Contact Ben. Yeah.
To contact Ben.
If we actually, for brainstorming, maybe this is for the Joint Land Use Commission, because maybe come speak to that, it's already a meeting that we're having and pretty much open to the land use commissions.
Well, the first thing I was asking is who should be there, and I want to bring that back to the selectmen and say, this is who he thinks should be there, and please help us to get those representatives there.
Okay, so maybe we table the committee, you come back to us and with maybe some key stakeholders, key players that you want on the committee.
Yeah, 'cause I
Then
don't know
we'll
if
come
we
back
need
to
a
forming
PCD for
that.
this, we might. I don't know if we need, that's why I want to call him. He will tell us who we need.
Awesome, all right, thank you, Dan.
Thank
So,
Dan's kind of established the liaison already.
Thank you.
broader communities.
All right, so based on Daniel's recommendation, should we table the action item for number 7, which was to, or 8, which was to form the Affordable Housing Committee?
Yes,
I
let's table
think
it.
it too.
Could we, I think it's a great approach.
Yeah.
Do you think we might have some feedback from that at the next selectmen
I'll
meeting?
be reached out to him tomorrow morning, and I'll contact this. I have to come down and give me stickers or something.
Yeah. So Daniel, if he does get back to you and you can, we can put you on the agenda for the next Board of Selectmen meeting if you have something to report at that time. But not to put pressure on you to turn it that quick, but if you
Oh,
can.
he already knows
Yeah.
I'm calling.
Okay. Great, all right.
Excellent.
So a motion to table?
So moved?
Second.
I think that's for the next one.
Okay, town ordinances. So the town ordinances, so I've talked to our town attorney, you know, we were talking about a blight ordinance, the short-term rental ordinance. We've talked about how the solid waste ordinance for months now needs to be updated. Planning and zoning needs to be updated. So what our town attorney suggested is that it become a grassroots effort. We start there, and then after we've actually come up with some documentation or some changes, it's approved at a town meeting, or just some educational sessions or informational sessions. People come in and look at the before, the after, so they feel comfortable with the changes. And at that time, then we could take it to an attorney or someone to tweak it and make sure the legalese is correct before we then go to a town meeting for publishing. They tried to I think it was they got a grant to codify the ordinances a few years back, but it was kind of done more in just the lawyers' offices or whatever, and then when it got presented at a town meeting, it got voted down because there did seem to be a little suspicion maybe that what was in the original wasn't necessarily in because people didn't have a chance to compare apples to apples, you know, so I, based on my feedback from the town attorney, decided maybe we come up with an ordinance committee and the Board of Selectmen would kind of choose who is on there, like maybe somebody from Park and Rec is going to sit on there because there's a Park and Rec ordinance. Somebody from the Transfer Station Committee we'd ask to be on there and review the solid waste one. So the people on the committee wouldn't have to review every ordinance, they would just be looking, kind of focusing on their own, the ordinance that affects them as a commission, and that's a good start. And then the ordinances that are more general, maybe that's the Board of Selectmen take that on or something like that. So that was my thought with that.
I applaud you for moving forward on the ordinances. I think it's a good movement. I'm just not sure how efficient this committee concept is with one person from each commission. And I wish I had a brilliant solution to say we should do this. This just sounds like a lot of group whatever. I mean, I'm thinking...
Well, it's going to be a long process. I mean, there's no doubt it's not going to happen overnight. But like the Park and Rec one, I'd review that constantly. It's only a page and a half. And it's so outdated that, you know, I'd say, I think that commission could have up to 19 people. And I would come to the Board of Selectmen asking to cut that back because we could never have a quorum. So it was, you know, little things like that. You know, with the solid waste, we found when we were doing the pay-as-you-throw, there's listing of 2 fees or 2 fines if you didn't recycle, you know, I mean, so I think that committee, maybe there's a point person on the committee and they just start reviewing paragraph at a time, over time, like it's not going to be done overnight.
Is there anything from CCM that could lend us some support to spearhead this and be like what Daniel just said for Ben Joy, to have someone from CCM spearhead it and lead us so we aren't reinventing the wheel? What Catherine said, you know, she was concerned where, you know,
To have somebody oversee?
Yes,
oversee from CCM.
that's a great idea.
And have them help you gather your information for Park and Rec, help you gather information from the transfer station, help you gather someone that's going to lead us that knows a little bit more than we do.
I mean, like we know we need the WPCA ordinances reviewed and updated. So that person might say, these are the ones we need, and then channel it out, and that board does that. Or just suggesting, the transfer station committee does the ordinance for the transfer station.
Well, that was my thought, because then it's solid, it's more grassroots.
But without a new committee.
You know.
Right, but
Oh, no. Well, the committee would just be
I mean, it's more of an
Ordinance
action
committee
plan
for
than a
stuff like,
ordinance committee.
Short-term rentals, though, there's no committee under that. So that would be, go ahead, Tom. You had-
So I just, again, just thinking this through, so if you were to ask us what we would need to change, if you're asking planning and zoning, what we would need to change in, as our ordinance, I would think you would task the planning and zoning commission to look at that, go through it, we could send it to our town attorney, our personal attorney, have him look at it and send it back to you guys. But that just puts it all back in your plate, so I think maybe you do need a smaller committee, but maybe not with somebody from every unit. So like 2 or 3 people that go, all right, you guys need to look at this, you need to look at
Yeah,
that.
I think that is what I was gearing for, and then ultimately, each committee, like, again, zoning would look at only zoning, and
Yes.
then you'd come back, and maybe then there's a CCM person that could.
So like
do
a
the-
small committee of
Yeah.
maybe 4 people working on this with a CCM person.
Right, again, and so you're looking for volunteers that aren't already doing all this stuff, so you're not killing the rest of us.
Yeah, but it's the people that know, that have
Yes.
been working in the
Right.
weeds of that ordinance, that already know
Yeah.
easily to fix, different things.
Just my thoughts.
Lenore, quickly, what you got?
This is like top, #1 priority in our book right now, and what I need to get my head around it is what makes an ordinance. I mean, kind of like ground zero, what's an ordinance? Now, who would I go to for that?
And that's why I suggested reaching out to CCM. They're constantly telling us, we're here to help you.
Okay, I'll reach out.
Connecticut Council of Municipalities, we all belong to it.
Okay.
Everyone that's in the state.
So kind of a leader or
They're-
moderator
they're-
or
they're a group
facilitator,
that
like that kind
run the
of.
state, that help all the towns and
Okay,
What are they called?
Connecticut Council of Municipalities.
so I'll reach out
And
to
then there's
them,
another
and then
group
I'll
called
reach out
COST.
to each unit, like
All right.
Dwayne and Catherine, and we're all suggesting, like, right?
Okay, and so you're gonna pick like 3 or 4 people that aren't on a commission, make them the point people, and they can relate to
Right,
you
and
guys
I'll
and
reach
us.
out to CCM to see if they have kind of a facilitator.
Maybe
that's
they don't,
used to
I don't know,
doing this.
just it's worth the phone call.
Yeah, I mean, we're part of that organization, so
Get
we
something
should
for
use
it.
them.
Sounds good.
Okay, number 10, Region 4, well, thank you, Tony, for your presentation. Region 4 and town building updates. Do you have anything to report for Region 4?
No, they're plugging along and still shooting for right after the first of the year.
Great, that's for John Winthrop. They did send out this mold,
We'll catch up and
this is a little thing that went out to all the parents, so I got it. So if anyone would like to see it, they have some pictures of the new pipe insulation, but they're in phase 2. And that's doing some stuff with the HVAC and the air conditioning and replacing pipe insulation that had been removed during remediation.
the biggest thing, I will give enough, the biggest thing is when they cleaned out all the rooms, there was like 240 boxes of material. And it was gonna cost like $300-some thousand to clean it. All the boxes are in the gymnasium right now, each classroom, and they're bringing in each teacher to go through the boxes and what's throwable, and throw it away, and what has to be cleaned, they're shrinking it down. So they did one classroom last week, and they started off with 2 big boxes, and they ended up with 3 little totes. So, I mean, they're whittling it down, but it's a slow process. Because they take the boxes and bring it outside, so it's not in a room. But they're moving along.
Yeah, that's what they had told me in the basement. Once it gets outside, they
Yeah.
can kind of go through
Yep.
it. Yeah, when they did, yeah. So, that's all I had too, because we talked about the security thing. That new security at John Winthrop, that back stairwell or something, but that is still now going to the state, I guess, for the approval of those plans, so nothing has happened there. Library, we are about to hire a local gentleman to do a little painting in the kitchen at the library. That was flagged during the OSHA inspection because the paint was chipping, and they weren't allowed to use the kitchen, so that's a little update there. Nothing really new here in the basement. And I do have some pictures from Tri-Town. Rob has taken from Tri-Town Youth Services a couple pictures for me, along with what Catherine had presented. So we'll have a better picture on that building coming up too.
Great. What about the picnic tables? Are they removed? Remember they've got the
Yeah.
nail and the
Those
broken
were,
board?
Tri-Town got those donated. I don't know if they got rid of those. Those weren't town property.
Can we follow up on that?
So I'll
That'd be
look at
good.
The only question I had, the email that was sent out, was it yesterday, about the foam over at Tri-Town? Did that get resolved, or is it getting resolved? That was a little upsetting.
No,
what
Face
phone?
Bricks, they didn't have the correct phone and didn't have the caller ID, so they can't dial back
Oh, the
when there's
phone.
an emergency.
I thought you said phone,
No,
because
phone,
we
I'm
were
sorry.
talking about.
That's
Yeah, no, I'm
63.
sorry, phone.
I don't know.
Okay.
We have the phone, they just never got put on the new system, and I don't know.
Okay.
But
No, I just-
somebody took it out of my office to deal with it.
Okay. I'm just,
So I think it's going to get finished, but,
just if someone's in need, and I'll make sure that they're available.
yeah. Yeah, okay, and,
I had a question. Is this the point to bring new stuff, to ask about a question?
as long as it's not a new topic,
No, well, it's,
because if it's not on the agenda, we shouldn't really talk about it. I mean, because the residents didn't have a chance to come. If something's on the agenda, they might show up.
no, it's not
You
about
know.
that. I just wanted to know on, it's more procedural between us and Board of Finance on the replacement of the assessor office assistant. Is that going to be part-time or full-time? And do we need to take it to the Board of Finance? That's all I'm asking in the next, for the next meeting.
Oh, yeah, no, any positions are getting filled equally as they were filled before. We haven't changed anything. So
Okay.
Millie's position was full-time, it'll get filled full-time.
Full-time. Thanks.
You are welcome. And the next audience of citizens comes up. Yes,
Go ahead, Mike.
I wanted to catch those guys before they left.
I'm sorry.
209 Main Street, Mike. In regards to what Dan had mentioned about the affordable housing, I mean, preferably it's on a sewer and water line. But, I mean, that's an ideal world. I don't know that we should be restricting, I guess my question was gonna be for the three of them, what does it add to the project if it has to go on septic and well? I mean, there's a lot of small towns in Connecticut who are facing the same thing, who are not on septic, so they've done it. I mean, I think what we need to do is kind of identify the areas that are not on septic, sewer and city water. If that's going to achieve our goal easier, and, I mean, we need to explore that, not just to be, And then for the ordinances, so I'm gonna ask, I'll pinpoint those guys, what it adds to a project. I mean,
Well, I think it makes it more appealing to a developer to come in, right? I mean,
Of
that's
course.
kind of obvious like that, but I think probably when this Ben Joy gets on board, we'll probably have a lot more.
but Killingworth, they did a 30 lot subdivision with affordable housing. One shot, it took care of all of these problems. And it's cool looking, it's beautiful. And on the ordinances, just a suggestion. I mean, there's a lot of small towns that are the same size of us, similar populations. I mean, can't we get 3 towns and go through their ordinances and kind of get an idea, benchmark of where,
It's a good idea.
instead of trying to reinvent the wheel?
Well, that's why I said ask CCM for the help, because they could say, hey, call such and such and such and such, and they could be the facilitator.
I mean, our ordinances.
We don't need to reinvent
They
the
just
wheel.
have to be updated. They're not, they're very thoroughly written, and they're based on, a lot of them, state statute, because that's what, so it is really just the people that are working with them every day now, like, again, the solid waste, because that's been going on for months, since last December, we've started, or even before that.
But with the short-term rental, there's,
But that, and
I mean, there's,
Essex just passed one, so we really weren't going to reinvent the wheel. We were going to just sort of copy where we could, really.
right.
And Norm was very happy to do
And
that.
blight ordinances and noise ordinances and things like that. I mean, again, I'm sure other towns have dealt with this.
Yes.
Why go through all of
And Tony did send me quite a few other town ordinances that for blight, like Clinton and different towns, so we're on the same page. We don't want to have to do any more work than we have to and involve our town attorney, because if it's already been written and approved.
Gary Clark. What constitutes, I guess, an acceptable commercial business to go to the transfer station?
Good question.
Well, again, I was told it was really only landscaping and it had to be Chester or Deep River. But all the exceptions to the rules that we've come up with, Amy in the town clerk's office has a whole listing.
Okay, and when did that change?
It was just put in the contract with Chester. Again, it was only Chester and Deep River landscaping businesses.
So we changed the dump ordinance? Because there was an ordinance that said no commercial dumping at all. And I didn't think we could change an ordinance unless it went to a town vote.
Well, that is correct, so I don't know exactly in the ordinance where that's stated, so I don't want to misspeak. I've read that ordinance probably 14 times since I've been in office, so. But I know the Chester contract has landscaping in there is allowed for brush.
So your question is
I have one more. Give me 1 second.
is the contract misaligned to our current ordinance, is the question?
But it doesn't, as Dwayne was saying, it's a Deep River resident dumping brush. I understand he's paying for it, but we don't know where that brush came from. A building permit, building debris, if somebody has a building permit from Deep River, I can understand. But you don't have a building permit to cut down somebody's shrubs as a landscaper, or cut down a tree that fell down and bring it to the transfer station that we have to pay for to get rid of all the brush. That was a terrific point made, and I just wanted to know where we draw the line for commercial businesses dumping in our dump. And if we changed the ordinance, why didn't it come to a town vote? My second question, and Dwayne, you don't have to answer this if you don't want, I'd like to know what happened with our RFP process to fail out on Tower Hill. Where did that shortcoming come? And why are we paying an extra $21,000? If we have an RFP process, I mean, Dwayne's done these for 40 years. I mean, it's a contract that everybody bids apples to apples. I'd like to know how it fell apart, if I can be so bold.
You want me to answer?
You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
I'll give you the highlights. So when the problem arose on Oak Ridge Drive, the building inspector reached out to 4 contractors. 2 of them being local, 2 of them doing business in town. The first one gave a bid that was crazy, and it whittled it down to the 3. Bids came out, and at that time, one of the contractors opposed of how it was done, made some false allegations, and so at that time, they were going to run the pipe between 2 properties with a 90. We had a meeting here. They decided to change it. That day after the meeting, the building inspector went out there with Jacobson, our town engineer, and the homeowners, and they redirected the pipe that way. That time Jacobson said instead of going with a 24-inch pipe, he recommends going with a 36-inch pipe. They put out the RFP again. They called the 3 contractors, they all came out and looked at it. The next day, that was on a Friday, I believe, on a Saturday, there was an addendum sent out that any pipe that could not be removed underneath, because they believe that the pipe goes underneath the house, parts of it, that if the pipe cannot be removed, it has to be filled with flowable fill. 2 of the contractors bid it, and 1 of them didn't see the RFP for the flowable fill. Bids came in, we went through them. I had concerns. I've been in this business for a couple of years, and here we are today. And that's my concern, that I would like to have a policy and procedure in writing so we don't run into this problem again. This problem's been going on since, I believe, March 3rd or 4th, give or take. It's now October 9th. It's going to be October 14th before it gets going. The residents should not have to do this. And the residents should not have to pay another $21,000. So this is my concerns about how we conduct ourselves in the town.
There was a mistake with an email, and the addendum was not sent to one of the contractors who had a lower bid and did not have the information on the extra addendum. And then a contract was signed with that contractor. So there's a signed contract, but you still need this other work done. So the whole process was messy. Some of it was clerical error, some of it was delays in communication between which one of the players was responsible for getting the information to the next one. There's a term for that, but it's not ladylike, so.
And there was a change of scope of work too.
Gary, I think you're on the same page as me. I'm a firm believer of RFPs. I would like RFPs for everything, so then there's no questions asked. And again, we're all bidding on an apple, we're all bidding on an orange, and again, it's only the best thing for our community. Because just because we give someone carte blanche to do whatever they want, may not be the best price. And the lowest price isn't always the best price.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
But the good part
The
of all
job
of
has
this,
to be done properly.
the good part of that is that in the process, we went back to the engineering company to look and confirm and as to what is the size of the catch basin to accommodate the correct size of the pipe. And so I believe that this project is about to start on Monday. And I believe, while it was a very painful, lengthy process, that what is about to begin is the correct solution here.
Well, I know there's one person that will make sure it's done properly.
That's the homeowner.
Don't mess with me.
All right, can I have anything else? Motion to adjourn,
Did
otherwise?
you have something else about that? Because he had his hand up when I was talking.
Oh,
And I'm sitting down, I'm taller than you. He brought up about the roll-off trucks coming in. Part of the deal, that's only for brush. It is not for demolition. You know, demolition comes in a pickup truck or a small trailer. It's no big roll-off trucks are dumping into our containers down there.
that's right, it's only for brush.
And that stopped many years ago because the trash haulers used to come to the backside of the building. And we used to accept it from the trash haulers, but since CWPM went down below where we haul the demo to, that, you know, the garbage men have been shut off there. They either go to Essex or, and it's trailered out.
You're right, and that is still
The
an
only other thing I
ordinance.
wanted to ask about was the placement of the stickers, because that seems to be a big concern. A lot of people don't want them on their windshield. A suggestion seems the driver's door is where you normally, where your lock would be back here, because you're up here. If you put the sticker there, it's out of visual sight for a lot of people. And two, it makes it a lot easier for us to see it. When we're looking over 3 or 4 rows of cars, when they all line up, we can see them on the side windows. On the windshield,
Okay.
I've seen some of the vehicles come in, they've got stickers going all the way up the side of the windshield. And that's definitely an obstruction of view.
Right. Well, maybe that's something when we redo the solid waste ordinance, we can address the sticker placement.
That was a suggestion, I think we talked about it.
Yeah.
Well, if it's right here,
Please say it's got out of John's come back.
you know,
What's that?
That's how it used to be, you could have it on the windshield or on the driver's side.
That's, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn,
Move that we
7:41?
adjourn.
Oh, I have one person online. Any comment from the person online? No? Tree hugger, okay. You're good.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Okay, I love
Thank you very much.
Thank you. 7:40.